right, guys. So thank you guys so much for joining, especially those of you who are here early. So I'm here. I'm actually like about 15 minutes early. Let me know where. Let me know where you're joining from. Yes, happy Tuesday from St. Louis. All right. Okay, good. It's only been 1 minute. I was really because I've been over here clowning. I got a new mic. I was singing to myself, talking to myself. You know what? Maybe I could start with a brief story time since I got a few minutes to spare. What story should I share? I could do a quick story time while I'm waiting. California. Okay, just started. No worries. We only saw you looking at the screen. Okay, great. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. No, you're right. Tan, you're right. It was absolutely supposed to start at 6:30. Which okay, I'm gonna give you a quick story time since we're early and I don't want other people to feel like they missed it. I have a Yeti mic. Um, let's see. Yeah, we're in here just looking at you. Okay, which story time should I give you guys? Because I'm gonna do an extended story time. I have so many weird things that happen to me, like all the time. Oh, okay. I'm gonna do a quick story time. This is the story time on how I first learned how to do background checks, like how I first started off doing them. So basically, I was bored minding other people's business in law school. So it was my first summer in law school, and I was working for a death penalty law firm. Okay, this law firm, I was working for free. I was doing pro bono work all summer, and at the firm, they only handled death penalty cases. So they were explaining to me that part of my task as a student intern would be to do some background research on potential witnesses that our client could call that could speak to it was called mitigation evidence. Basically, the fact that he had a really bad upbringing and that his life is salvageable, right? Because the state, it was, a D penalty case. The state was trying to unalive him. Wait, Glory has asked, what happened to the guy that was throwing up? Oh, that was a good one. Okay, hold on, I might get to that one too. All right, so part of my task that summer is they taught me how to do basic searches on different people to get that basic information. Because basically, before we would decide that somebody would be a good witness, we had to see all the dirt in their background. So they were training me on how to use their background check system and like basic background checks. So they were like, all right, so use a name and you put the name in here and the baby. You know what? I'm gonna show you what I saw. I'm gonna show you what I saw because I was so aggravated. Actually, and as I do this, I'm gonna get you some tips on how I actually do background checks. Hold on, I'm gonna show you exactly what I saw. It made me say, oh Jesus, I got a problem. So let me go on over here. Here we go. So here we go. See if I do it. I'm not really good at doing two things at one time in case you haven't noticed. All right, here we go. We're gonna share this screen. So I'm sitting there in my internship, minding my little business, right? And I'm doing the background check software. And instead of using like James Smith, because there was like 10 million of those, I put in my last name, Redwine. So I put in Redwine and like buku cases come up. And this is the Dallas County Criminal Record Search. I was like, huh? I look at the name. It's my granddaddy. I was like, oh no, this gotta be wrong. It says my granddaddy got locked up about 3 weeks ago. And had to put up like a $2,500 bill. And I know he don't got that kind of money because he's on a fixed income. Like, he be borrowing money from my auntie and my daddy and whoever else, right? So I was like, this can't be right. And my oldest uncle, Butch, he's a junior. So I was like, oh, this is probably Uncle Butch. But I was like, Uncle Butch is kind of too old to still be doing stuff. Because, he's really good at going to jail. Last time I visited Uncle Butch in Colorado, which is where he lived, I went and I visited. And I was like, oh, Auntie, where's Uncle? She was like, he's at work. I was like, oh, will he be home later? She was like, no, he's not going to be home this week. I said, why not? She said, oh, it's court ordered. Sometimes he would get in trouble and they liked him so much because we're charismatic that he would get sentenced to evening jail. And so he would just have to go to jail on the evenings and weekends. It was just a little DUI. I think it was like his 8th or 9th. But whatever the case, anyway, I say that to say it wouldn't have been unusual for Uncle Butch, to go to a little bit of prison. But no, it was granddaddy. My granddaddy got arrested for terroristic threats. I said, what in the world? So I do a little more digging, and then I'm able to pull up the indictment. Y'all, let me tell you what Papa did. Now, mind you, Papa, Papa is a good old Jehovah's Witness, but he's only a Jehovah's Witness because he's cheap. Like, he don't really do nothing else except not gives you gifts and not recognize your birthdays. Like, it was just very convenient for him to become Jehovah's Witness at the point in time where he like came back around in everybody's life, and it was time to like give Christmas gifts and birthday gifts. So I don't really think he's Jehovah's Witness. I think it was just cheap. Anyway, as this cheap Jehovah's Witness, he doesn't really like people, places, or things. Similar to my daddy. And so he didn't get along with his neighbor at all. So apparently the terroristic threat he was accused of is his neighbor kept letting the neighbor's dog poo poo and my granddaddy in Papa's yard. And granddaddy was sick of it. So granddaddy picked up the poo one day, put it on the man's doorstep. Well, that was back in the day when people still had newspapers. Man goes, walks out in his house slippers to go get the paper, and boom, steps into a pile of his own dog's dog crap. Okay. So Papa, so then of course he comes over, he's cussing because he just knows this is like we're very clever people. And so, I've never broken the law, but I'm like illegal adjacent. I've always been one like I figure out like how annoying can I be without actually going to jail? Well, in this case, that was annoying, but not illegal, right? And Papa at this time, he was like 87. So oh boy, the neighbor comes over, bangs on my granddaddy door, and granddaddy was like, what you want? Mind you, neighbor is like a Mexican man. He's not an in at all, but my granny doesn't care. Everybody gets that. So the guy was like, "Oh, you put this crap on my doorstep, da da da." And he was like, "Well, it's your dogs. How do you think I feel?" Da 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 da. And he told him, "Get your A off my yard. If you come over here again, I promise to God, I'm gonna pow pow you." So the threat. He was accused of making terroristic threats because he told a neighbor if he came over in his yard again, he was gonna pow pow him. And I was like, oh my God, this shouldn't be a crime. Like, this is an old man. This is not a terroristic threat. This is a promise. Like, granddaddy will pow pow people for no reason. I mean, I was never allowed to go to family reunions until I was like 21 years old because they had one family reunion where Papa pulled out a gun on his brother because he said that man owed him like $50. I don't really know if he really owed him the money, but he definitely pulled that gun out, and it was definitely a situation. Mind you, the family reunion was actually in the corner of my neighborhood. Like, it was walkable distance, but we weren't allowed to walk down the street. We couldn't go to the family reunion or nothing because guns were frequently pulled. Now, when I was told this story, I thought my daddy was exaggerating simply due to the fact that, like, my daddy, he don't like being in environments where he's gonna have to beat people up because he's very good at that. But I did a little family digging, like ancestry.com and stuff like that. And actually, my great great grandmother, she killed her brother-in-law over a chicken. So they're a little rowdy in that family. So it's generational. Anyway, so I just feel like the crime of making terroristic threats, to be fair, this happened in like 2005. Okay. It was a new crime back then. That crime actually came from September 11th. So it literally did not exist. It is a misdemeanor in Texas. It did not exist until in 2001 from 9/11. And that was because, of course, America had a heightened concern over terroristic threats. So apparently a terroristic threat is just you telling somebody I'm a pop out. So next time you get mad at your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your dog or even your kid, technically, when you say things like, I'll put you in this world, I'll take you out, that could be a terroristic threat. Who knew? But that was my first stab that I took, not literally. That was the first attempt that I used to do a background check. And I was just perplexed at all that I found. So yes, granddaddy actually was at 87 years old on probation. Luckily, he just had to sit in there long enough for one of my aunties to come up there with the $2,500. And I'm glad they put all their money up because the truth be told, he the type, he'll violate. That 87-year-old man, he was wild. Okay. He had about 5 wives and he had these beautiful hazel eyes and he loved young women. I remember one time I was like, oh, I know this nice older woman. He said, I don't like nothing old but money. I was like, okay. He had a woman all the way through. Okay. So he don't like jail. He don't like nothing. It's a bunch of men. So ultimately, he did his probation. He got off. He didn't have any issues. But after that, I was like, oh, wow, I really like this background check stuff. So, yeah, Mercedes said, yeah, it was the eyes. Apparently, the men in my family, my dad, my grandpa, his dad, they all have them, including like my great grandpa. There's like this painting of him, and it used to scare the dickens out of me, like at night, because the eyes, it was like an oil painting, because I guess he's like 300 years old. I don't know. Okay, well, maybe he was like born in like 1909 or something. And the eyes like stick out and look at you in the middle of the night. Gave me the heebie-jeebies. Anyhow, the point of the matter is I learned early on about making background checks on people, even if even if it's your papa. I started with granddaddy, and then I have actually proceeded. I've used it with all of the men that I've dated. Somebody mentioned the guy that if you watch my Instagram story, I'm gonna start the rest of this, y'all, at 6:27. I was just giving a short story time due to the fact that I accidentally started this early. Oh, Bernice, thank you. $1.99. Thank you for the super chat. I'm very grateful. Wait, please confirm. Please confirm I don't have my papa's trigger finger DNA running through my veins. I cannot afford to have a trigger finger because there are still some student loans that apparently I have left. I'm going to be talking to Kamala about this, Madam President, quite soon, when time permits. But no, I can't be that way. But I also, if you watch Ready to Love, you can probably tell on my dad's side, we have very bad tempers. So I try to be very much in control of it. And so I discovered that I really only have like 3 levels. I have 0, 50, which is where I cry. Like I cry out of frustration. I cry when I'm exhausted. But I have 0, 50, and felony. Okay. I try to stay away from the felony part. Because when I cross felony, I potentially could get my license suspended. We don't want that. So I had an incident where I was dating this man. He was very poor. He was poor, but he was very attractive. And I was dating this man because he was cute and I was being, superfluous. I didn't care. And his baby mama tried to fight me at the club. And I remember thinking, I can't beat you up. Well, probably I can't probably beat you up because I can't fight that good. But secondly, I can't beat you up because I was still waiting for my bar results. So that's another story time. I actually had to go down to the courthouse. I got a restraining order first, and then proceeded to beat the brakes off of her legally. Anyway, we are right about at time now, guys. Thank you again, Bernice, for the super chat. Who else we got in the chat? Biggie Shorty said same. Yep, we got. That's right, Mercedes. My anger levels are 0, 50, and felony. That's what we got. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get started. Thank you guys for joining us. This is going to be our jury deliberations. You guys are the jury. If you'd like to join the membership, it starts at like $4. And when you join the membership, there are 2 levels. There is paralegal and there is co-counsel. So whatever floats your boat. And also, my ebook is out now. Y'all, my ebook is called Background Checks 101. You can go to my website, SimoneRedwine.com. Here we go. Let me go share it. I want y'all to see this. I want y'all to see what I've got here. Bam. Background Checks 101. It is the beginner's guide, a beginner's guide to discovering who the heck you're dealing with by me. Okay. Here's the book. It's got a number of different chapters. It was initially $12.99. Now it's $19.99 because it's no longer pre-sale. But you're going to learn a lot of tips and tricks, how to do the background check. And then when you do like the initial check, how to then go and pull the records. If you watched the episode that I did recently where I broke down Jennifer Williams and her fiance, his scamming, I actually used the methods that I discussed in this book. I used those so that I could get his court transcript, baby. I got that court transcript. I was able to determine what exactly he did because he was like, oh, it shouldn't have been a big thing. Baby, you got a false imprisonment, which is basically kidnapping without moving him around a whole bunch of places. And the poor girl had to jump out the window to get away from you and broke both of her ankles and was in the hospital for 3 months. So you're lying. And that's how I found out. Now, here we go. All right. So let's start with, we back to Miss Jackie. Jackie. Hold on. Here we go. So, poor Miss Jackie Jackie from Basketball Wives. I got her back up here because here we go. I'm gonna play this. Oh, good. Is it? Let me make sure it's sharing the proper tab. Hold on. Where? I don't know. Let's go on this Jackie. Share this tab instead. I'm really excited about this microphone, y'all. I'm not gonna know how to act. All right. So here's a clip of Jackie. This is this week's clip from Basketball Wives. This is gonna build on. If you saw the episode I did last week, I was irritated with how Evelyn came out and revealed the information about Jackie and etc. Basically, what Evelyn said was that she hired a private investigator who discovered that Jackie had been married not one, not twice, but 4 times, Doug being her 4th husband, and that Jackie had a 1987 prostitution charge. Okay, Jackie was a little lady of the night. Now, I think we can all tell Jackie is probably some type of a freak. She doesn't seem to have limits or perhaps walls either. I don't know. But I really didn't like how it was done completely. So I just thought fair is fair. So we did a background check on Evelyn. We did one on Jackie. So you definitely want to check out this episode. Here's what's going on this week. There you go. Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Cam. You said Kamala. Okay, I'm going to keep practicing. Kamala. I really just need to say Madam President or Madam Harris, but Kamala. I'm not good with, like, I still call the Derricos, and I think it's supposed to be Doricos, but thank you for your help. All right, here we go. I'm going to hit play. Okay. Y'all, Jackie's about to get sued for defamation. I wouldn't be surprised. No, I'm not saying I already know of that, but I would not be surprised. First of all, Jackie. So we're going to address the accusation of prostitution. Now, let me add this to the screen. This is the background check that we did on Jackie, okay? Clear as day. Now, at the Jackie don't have about 50 names, okay? Here we go. Jackie Marie Christie, here we go. She was Jackie Marie Christie. It's like her, obviously, Marie is her middle name. But look at this, known aliases on page 1. Let me tilt the screen. Hold on. This lady has been Jackie Lee Wilson, Jackie Marie Lee. She married a Lee. She married a Mr. Wilson. Okay, we know she married a Mr. Christie. We got a Miss Holmes. Okay, Jackie just be up here lying and flying. So then we go to page 5. Honey, October 20th, 1987. Jackie, this here says she was about 21 years old. It said age at the time, 21. You were 21 years old. Girl, or 88, whatever it is. Girl, don't nobody care. But don't get up here lying. So you saw a little tissy cat. So what? Hey, now it's called OnlyFans. Like, it's forgivable, but nobody likes somebody that comes up there and bold-faced lies. Now, one thing could happen is perhaps there are just two Jackie, at the time it was Jackie Marie Wilson. Perhaps there's just two Jackie Marie Wilsons that have the same birthday, that both lived in the same place. I believe this was Washington State back then. Like, girl, get out of here. Yeah, y'all were both in whatever this county is. I can't even pronounce it because my vision is bad. I'm like a senior citizen. But Jackie, quit lying. Quit lying. Because I don't think when I watched the clip, right, I realized Jackie had no idea. She probably, when she's lying to her friend Cheyenne there, she probably had no idea the level of evidence that Evelyn had. So she probably thought she could just lie out of it. But what was interesting to me is when she began to say, how's my husband going to feel? That's when I knew she was lying. That was very clear that what she was trying to do was cover her bottom. Because it dawned on me, I bet you her husband probably didn't even know she was married that many times. I highly doubt Doug knew she had 3 prior husbands. That would have been a red freaking flag. Because remember, she hid her oldest child for the longest time. The first season, hit that like button, y'all. Hit that subscribe too, please. I appreciate it. So yes, Red Peach Evelyn was correct. Like I said, my caveat is that perhaps there's someone with Jackie Christie's same name back in the 80s. Jackie Christie was Jackie Marie. It was Jackie Marie Wilson because she was married to a Mr. Wilson. Okay. And She had 3 husbands. I'm gonna tell you something about people with 3 husbands, okay? My granny had 5 of them. And one thing that a lot of women do that have a lot of husbands like that, especially back in the day, is sell pussy. Okay, okay. Stay with me here. I guess what I mean more specifically is that a lot of times the husbands are a way for you to get away from a toxic household. And Jackie has talked about how toxic her childbearing was. Like, we forgive you, like, nobody cares. But just at this big age, girl, you almost 60 years old. Don't be out here lying. But I want to hear in the chat, do you think that perhaps part of the reason that Jackie lied about it and didn't want to admit it was because her husband, one, probably didn't know. I don't think Doug knew, because she said, how do you think my husband's gonna know about me, feel about me being a prostitute? Well, especially back then, you was already nuts. So I grew up in San Antonio as well as Dallas. My grandparents lived in San Antonio, and she was known for being a nut bucket. She would not allow him to go to any city without her, including she would literally, when they would take a bus from one city to another, she would drive behind the bus in her car to follow him, because she was scared that some other woman was going to scoop Doug up and take away her little meal ticket. She knew she wasn't going to get no another Doug. As kooky crazy as she is. And then again, she hid her first child. No one knew about that first child for like at least the first season of Basketball Wives. And then when the child, because she acted like she only had the 2 kids with Doug, like they this big happy family. Then when the oldest daughter was included in the show, that daughter shared the pain of basically being treated like, a prodigal son, in that she was raised by her grandma. So Jackie could run around behind the tour bus and keep up with her man out of fear that her man was going to be with somebody sane. Yeah, exactly. Who cares if she did that? Like, literally at this point, he loves you. He marries you again every year. Girl, come on. This ain't that. But ultimately, I want to hear this. Do you think that Doug knew about it? Do you think Doug knew about her 3 prior husbands? I don't think he knew. And at this point, ain't nothing he gonna do about it. All right, moving right along. Next up, you're gonna put that down. Next up, guys, because we got a lot going on. Next up, last night I covered the Jerry Jones paternity test suit, and the end is Jerry Jones was recently being sued by his love child, basically a child he made out of wedlock back in the 90s with a woman who was American Airlines employee in Arkansas. Well, the case had gone to trial, and it was being tried in like a country part of North Texas, when after the mother took the stand and tearfully cried and told her story about how terrible it was for her daughter to grow up going to school just 2 miles up the street from Jerry's house. And her daughter used to beg, please, Mom, can I just meet my father for 15 minutes? And Jerry said no, that it left her with no choice but to file the lawsuit. Child, the lawsuit was actually not about money. The lawsuit was, the daughter is now 26 years old. And she filed this lawsuit against Jerry Jones to force him to take a paternity test. Well, a judge ordered in February that Jerry had to take the test. Jerry then filed a bunch of different documents to try and kill time. And it was revealed that over the course of this young lady's life, now she's 26 years old, Jerry has paid her mother over $3 million towards her care, raising her, got her a Range Rover. The mama got the mama a Range Rover, and blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, after the mom's testimony, they go on a lunch break. Jerry, the young lady, and the mama, and miraculously, they settle before Jerry has to take the stand and admit that he cheated with the mama, got the mama pregnant, and cheated on his old wrinkly wife of 68 years. Whew. How old is Jerry? You know what? Let's find out. I feel like he's older than Dust. I want to be accurate here, so we're not just going to say, how old is Dust? How old is Jerry Jones, who looks like a shriveled up prune? He is 81 years old, and the young lady is 26. So, yep. Thank you. 81. Good. Okay. I just looked him up. Yeah, there we go. She said that. So anyhow, so Jerry Jones lucked out. He did not end up having to testify because there was no way to get out of that. In a civil trial, there's no way in this kind of case to get out of it. But what was really interesting is that many people are unaware that even if you're grown, you are able to file in certain instances to force the person that you think may be your father to take a paternity test. Basically, the legal standard is one, you cannot have anyone that's been legally determined to be your father. Here, the young girl's mom was actually married, cheated on her husband to have his baby with Jerry, and her husband, before the husband divorced the mama, went for a paternity test and confirmed prior to the divorce that it was not his kid. If that man would have divorced that lady without a paternity test, that man would have been screwed and Jerry would have been off the hook. But because there was no one on that little girl's birth certificate, she was able to come at age, and she actually filed that lawsuit initially at 24 years old. She was able to file at 24 years old to make this old wrinkly prone man at 81 years old take a paternity test. But because they settled, he didn't have to go through with it. And the terms of the settlement are confidential, but we know it was really, really juicy. Because just think about how much money Jerry Jones would have to give you to make you not want a paternity test and drop your entire multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Yeah, they were both adulterous. Yeah, these are some loose people. These are some loose characters. There we go. So that was Jerry Jones. Now, next up is little Tory Lanez. He just can't get right. That man just cannot get right. So Tory Lanez has filed. Let me go ahead and pull this up. There we go. There you go. It says Jerry is worth $14 billion. You said he could be your baby daddy. I know that's right. Yeah, just close your eyes, man. Jerry is cheap. $3 million. He could have done better than that. That was my first thought. And Heather, this is regarding the Jerry Jones story I just said. Heather says, I think Jerry has strong on many women screaming, there's no way I was snipped. That's actually what he initially told the mother. Like, oh, I had a vasectomy. And they shrinked away because they're like, ooh, and that is okay. Wait, let me read this again. I think Jerry strong-armed many women. Let me pull this down. Strong-armed many women screaming, there's no way I could be the dad because I was snipped. And that those women then shrinked away because their sex life was probably flowing. Oh, Heather, that is a great theory. And that is why he fought it. And I think here, given that the woman was married and she knew there was only two people she probably thought there's only two people I've been with, my husband and Jerry. And she actually, all the way to the end, thought it was her husband's, or at least pretended that it was going to be. Baby, let me tell you how. If I thought Jerry Jones was anyway my baby daddy, I'm telling everybody. I'm telling my husband, I'm like, hey, guess what? It's like a lottery ticket. But yep, they didn't go that route. So here we go. Now, back to Mr. Tory Lanez. Yeah. All right. Po Tory. Po little tink tink. Now. So Tory Lanez has filed a petition. He's filing for an appeal. The grounds he's seeking for the appeal is the fact that basically he's trying to file it on the grounds of new evidence that would prove his innocence. The new evidence is the testimony that could have been included of his driver. But here's the problem. Tory's attorneys had every opportunity to call him. And in fact, they didn't call him because they chose to make a strategic decision. Specifically, the driver wasn't initially available for whatever the initial date was that they wanted him to be available. He was supposed to be out of the country working or elsewhere. So what was going to have to happen is that they would have to adjourn the case during the middle of the trial, or by middle, I mean after the neighbor had been called, and they would resume after Christmas. And this was around like December 12th ish, something like that, December 12th. And his attorney made a strategic decision. And in fact, there was a quote where his attorney said, "No, we want to proceed," in part because they were concerned that to hold the jury over Christmas would cause them to lose their momentum. Baby, let me tell you how stupid that was. I mean, well, first of all, we see how it was. But I think one of the important things that Tory's attorneys seem to have not taken into account is this. So remember, the trial was very much going towards Tory Lanez's favor because the state's star witness, Megan's former BFF, Kelsey, gets on the stand and has amnesia. She can't remember this. She can't remember that. So when the state's star witness is all of a sudden no longer willing to point the finger at the defendant, the case is falling apart. Now, the prosecution tried to argue that Tory Lanez's camp tried to pay her off. However, there was no proof of that, and the judge was adamant that that was something that they could not allege directly to the jury. But it certainly created an issue because at no time was Kelsey willing to put the gun in Tory Lanez's hand. All was going well. Now, we all know after the prosecution does their side, the defense has an opportunity to rest. They do not have to testify here. Tory chose not to testify, which was probably good. But number two, they don't even have to call a witness. Here, case was going well. In my opinion, I want to hear your thoughts in the chat. It was going well until the defense called the neighbor. Mind you, the neighbor was the only neutral witness. And what does the neighbor do? This was the neighbor who witnessed it from his side of the fence or his side of the neighborhood or whatever. The yard. He specifically put the pow pow in Tory Lanez's hand. He said that Tory was, quote, firing everywhere, and that the pow pow was closer to Tory than to the girls. What? But what? First of all, now, shockers happen all the time, but it makes me wonder, like, this is why directly before it's time to call your witnesses, like the week of trial, you want to circle back. You want to have your private investigator circle back with each witness to confirm the gist of what they're going to say. Now, I don't know if when they initially spoke with the neighbor, there's no way the neighbor initially said that. I'm going to say that. Because if so, they simply wouldn't have called him. They didn't have to call them. But once they did, in my view, the only way to redeem him is with a different witness that could potentially say something that would be helpful to Tory. Who would that be? This driver. Let me give you, Tory's team filed this affidavit. I'm going to share with you. We're going to show a piece of that affidavit. And I'm going to read to you the important parts from it. And I want your view. Let me know in the chat. If you were on a jury, if you heard this testimony from the driver, would it either create reasonable doubt or could it have swayed you? All right. So the two important paragraphs are 10 and 14. Now, this is all the driver who was never called. Driver says, as I began to drive, Miss Pete, which is Megan, started to fight with Mr. Peterson. They were going back and forth. I remember Mr. Peterson saying to Miss Pete that he was going to tell Miss Harris what was going on. The what's going on was the fact that the two of them were sleeping together while he was also sleeping with Kelsey. So then he says, in paragraph 12, Miss Pete started the argument again, and Mr. Harris asked what was going on. Miss Harris, Kelsey, said, what's going on? Mr. Peterson told her that he and Miss Pete had been dating and intimate. Miss Harris was upset by this, and she and Mr. Peterson, as she manner, prior to any relationship with Miss Pete. Miss Pete and Miss Harris began fighting, going down to 14. I saw Miss Harris, which is Kelsey, with a pow pow in her hand. Mr. Peterson ran from behind Miss Pete and myself towards Miss Harris, Kelsey. Mr. Peterson and Kelsey began struggling, and Mr. Peterson, as he tried to unarm her. I was still pulling Miss Pete and did not see who shot the weapon. I was lucky I was not harmed. And in my opinion, Miss Pete was also fortunate. The whole incident happened so quickly within just a couple of minutes. Let me tell you something. The way you couldn't have not had me call that person after the neighbor says it was, this is getting me aggravated. It's not my case. I'm not getting paid. Well, I guess, hey, if y'all hit that like button, I can get paid, okay? Because I'm just going to share this with other viewers. But after the defense witness, which is the neighbor, says he was firing everywhere and there was pow pow, right? You couldn't keep me. I don't care if we have to continue the trial in 2027, but we're not ending this trial without someone coming on to explain why the shots may have appeared that, one, the defendant had the pow pow, and two, he was firing everywhere. Let's just illustrate that. If in fact Kelsey had the pow pow, right? And we know she was given immunity. And if he's trying to grab it from her and they're tussling, wouldn't that make sense why the pow pows are going, quote, everywhere, not in an organized fashion, because it's going off as the two are struggling. Listen, I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty. But what I am saying is I don't see how any client or lawyer in their right mind would say, no, we're good to go, guys. Let's just see what this jury's going to do. Are you crazy? And more than that, this is not grounds for an appeal now because of the fact that he, as in Tory Lanez's lawyers, knew this man existed, knew what the testimony would be, knew all of that, and made a strategic legal decision to not call him. That's on you, bro. That's on you. And I also, and when I say, like, if I were the defendant, I'd be like, oh no, like, no, we need to, I don't care about a Christmas, or what is it? They felt like they had a good motion. Yeah, you had good motion until you called the neighbor on the stand, and the neighbor said you did it, goofball. All right, what is Ibita shit says? Now that scary driver wants to emerge. Who paid him? Here's the thing: he was always there. So So he came, but or he was available, but he at the point at which he was available or was going to be available, I'll say that. The court had decided they would need to continue. It was between the prosecution and I think the prosecution wanted like more time to be able to prepare for him if he was going to be called because it wasn't clear or whatever the case was. But either way, calling him meant postponing the case till after Christmas. Can anybody talk about this without being emotional? It seems unlikely. I don't know. I'm just trying to state the facts, but his testimony is what was interesting to me is the affidavit makes the driver's testimony actually consistent with the neighbor's testimony, right? Where the neighbor says it was in Tory's hands and it was basically by Tory and it was going everywhere. This is reasonable doubt. Like that could have given him reasonable doubt. Like who? I would love to hear Tory's version of how the option to either call this man or rest was presented. Because I bet you, Tory, I know lawyers. And one thing about us and why I love what I do, also, if you're ever interested in a consultation with me, it doesn't matter where your case is located. We can do a legal strategy session. If you go to my website, Simone Redwine, scroll to the bottom, you can schedule a consultation. I do 30 minutes, I do 1 hour. But part of the reason that people like me is I will tell you the truth about your case, but I can also explain a lot of the time that people want a consult or a second opinion with another lawyer. It's just because their lawyer didn't explain something clearly. We go to law school and we deal with other lawyers all day and we're used to those nerds and we're not used to real, actual people. So frequently attorneys just don't take the time to explain in real world English what the heck is going on and what their true options are. So if you were the defendant, I want to know in the chat, if you were the defendant, would you have rested after the neighbor testified he saw it in your hands, or by you? It was by you. He saw the pow pow by Tory, and Tory was firing everywhere. Or would you be willing to wait till after Christmas, which would have been more than 2 more weeks, because this was around the 14th actually of December. Wait till after Christmas to call the doggone driver. Hey, the other reason I'd want to wait is because I don't want to risk the chance of a guilty verdict and me having to spend Christmas in the slammer. Hell no. Nikki said the driver is not telling the truth. He didn't show up to trial to say that. Got you. But let's see. Tory commented on someone's page after the incident and said that Kelsey didn't shoot him. Shoot Meg. He was also apologetic on the jail phone with Kelsey about Meg. I hear you. I frequently had wondered, like when I was just given the facts, right? And he said Kelsey didn't do it, but he also said he didn't. And you're right. That Instagram comment, that social media comment where Tory said Kelsey didn't do it, that was part of the evidence that the state submitted to the jury. Part of me wonders if perhaps Tory, was shooting in the air, because remember, he always says, I didn't pow her. I'm wondering if he was shooting in the air, trying to get the girls to stop fighting. And then one of the bullets ricocheted and ended up in her foot. Because I hear clients say things like that all the time, not realizing that you're right. You didn't pow her directly, but the charge that he was facing, it wasn't a direct intentional act. It was recklessly. The charge was literally recklessly or with gross negligence, effectively committing conduct that caused her to suffer the injuries she did. So you don't have to directly pow. You could pow in the air. You could whatever. The end result was her injuries. And so I had always wondered, many have asked, why didn't he just take a plea? He couldn't. You got to remember, he wasn't a citizen. Any kind of plea, even if it was time served, meant he would have to give up the right to be here in America for at least 10 years. To do that would be career ending, because you can't tour in America, and that's where he made all his money. So truly, this is one of those cases where you need a really good criminal lawyer who also has a strong immigration background, because the two together perhaps could find some type of sentence that may have worked, because anything over a misdemeanor, you going away, including if it's a felony probation. As a non-citizen, he would get deported after that. And at this point, he even tried marrying his baby mama. All of that didn't work. Once he finishes his sentence, he cannot be here. He gonna have to go on back to Canada. And I don't know what you're gonna do up there, because that place is kind of boring if you're not in Toronto or in the snow. Ibita Shid said, if they waited after Christmas, could the jury go home? Yes, the jury can go home. The jury would go home and reconvene later. Their issue is they felt like they had good momentum and they didn't want to kill the momentum. So we already know the girls physically fought. Yep, we knew that. A nail was recovered. So we knew they were fighting. To me, it makes more sense. The girls were fighting. He, pow-powed up in the air and bullets could have ricocheted. I don't think anybody thought he just aimed it at her and was like, dance, B. Although there was a version of that floating around. That sounded actually kind of crazy. All right, another one of the questions we got. Tiffany Celeste has asked, can Tory hire another attorney to file another appeal, citing the original is incompetent or something like that? Absolutely. Yes. Now, I don't know about a second appeal. I would assume so, because you have different, but most appeals have to initially be filed like within 30 days, I believe. And so it's a little good. I was waiting for that one. I thought that grounds was going to be in there. But if the same lawyer who made the strategic decision to, not call the driver is the one that filed this appeal, well, then we know why they didn't file that, right? You're not going to say incompetent counsel on yourself. Heather said absolutely not. Okay. Amy said, yes, that she heard the shots from one of the neighbors' Ring camera. It was available online. He let off 5 in quick succession. Does that 5? Yes, I remember, or it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I remember, something along those lines. Either way, for you guys, is that consistent with someone who's just shoot, trying to get these girls to leave each other, stop fighting and go? But what's crazy is let them fight, because if the issue is they're celebrities and we don't want them fighting because people are going to see it, what you think shots in the air in a rich neighborhood are going to do? You got too many stupid people procreating with each other. All right. So yes, Tia, gross negligence is why it's gross negligence or like recklessness. It's one of the two. There, what and what. But basically, it was not an intentional act. It was an act where, with reckless disregard, blah, 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 he committed his acts. Yep. There we go. So, next up, we're going to turn over. Let me see. I'm so sick of this. We're going to go to R. Kelly. R. Let's see. What was this? All right. So R. Kelly is trying to sing for his freedom. Okay. There we go. So R. Kelly is seeking, it says, the disgraced singer's appeal. He's basically appealing his sentence. He's hoping for a Bill Cosby result. It's not going to happen. Now, I've discussed this before, but I was actually one of the first attorneys to file suit against R. Kelly in New York City for his conduct against women. And I filed it on the civil side. My client actually became one of the women that the state used to help prosecute him in this. And I was one of the first because I used a very creative, my mind is a creative mind, and I use creative strategies to get to the coin, right? I do civil law, I do assault, serious injury, etc. So I'm quite familiar with this man's antics. And this singer is now filed suit. It says the disgraced singer's appeal stems from his conviction in Chicago for producing child P and enticing minors to engage in bad activity. I'm not going to use those words for YouTube, for which he was sentenced to 20 years. Oh, there is another case. Okay. In another case in New York, that's a separate appeal. He was sentenced to 30 years, though 19 of them are to be served concurrently. So at the same time, he's now 57. Oh gosh, he's almost 60. He's currently slated to be released. In his petition, his lawyers argue he was wrongly prosecuted retroactively under a federal law that they argued he shouldn't have been charged under. Basically, prior to 2003, the statute of limitation barred prosecutors from bringing the prosecution after the victim turned 25. So basically, they have to bring charges before someone turned 25. But the new law that was amended that year allowed prosecutions throughout the life of the victim, as long as the victims had not yet turned 25. But they had by the time that R. Kelly was charged. So that was the issue. So the timing is the issue. According to the federal appeals court that rejected the claim is that as a threshold matter, it is not unconstitutional to apply a newer statute to old conduct when a defendant was subject to prosecution at the time of the change. Long story short, this is the same way and the same basis, for example, how Cassie was able to bring the old lawsuit against Diddy. You can create laws that retroactively apply to certain types of conduct, because the issue is at the time, this was only applying to his victims that were under 25. This wasn't applying to, 30-year-old women, 40-year-old women. Well, actually, he don't like women that old, so there's that too. But the gist of the matter is but he's now appealed it to the United States Supreme Court. So what happens is first you appeal to an appellate court. That appellate court said, shut up. You don't make any sense. Get out of here. Scram. They told him to scram. They didn't even consider, they didn't even dilly-dally and make a long opinion. They were just like, scram. Okay, so he scrammed. And that is how come he's now at the United States Supreme Court. Let me tell you something. They got better things to do. Okay. All these crimes Trump has committed and all that stuff that he's got going on, they are going to be very busy. And I don't think they have any time to be wondering about whether or not this man can fly or, sit in jail for the rest of his life. I think nobody cares. Nobody cares. All right. So next, and our last story for the night. Let me see. I'm going to make sure I haven't missed any questions on the floor. Says, too bad he's a menace regardless. He beat up August Alsina. Did he? August Alsina, though, seems pretty easy to beat up. Oh, you talking about Tory Lanez. Yeah. All right. Attorney Simone, regarding IP and community property. If a husband created something that pays royalties during a marriage, is the ex-wife entitled to them? Yeah, unless there's a post-nup that says they're not. And like in most cases, that's community property. Ooh, let me put that back up. Yeah, that it would be considered community property. So it's something that can be split. Actually, at the time I took the bar, I think the law has now been revised in the state of New York, because what was happening is a lot of like men would get with school teachers that would help put them through medical school. They graduate medical school, start making all this money, and like leave their school teaching wife for a nurse at the hospital or something. So the law in New York actually said that, all of the assets, it would cover assets like this, but it also specifically defined that your degree is an asset. So if you put your spouse through school, when you divorced, you are entitled to the future value, one half of the future value of the increased income that partner can make now that they have the degree that you help them pay for, or even just help them get. Even if they got student loans, the mere fact that during your marriage that person got that degree, it was community property. Right, is Congress creating these laws to be amended? I'm not sure. I don't know which ones you're referring to. But last but not least, we're going to talk briefly about Diddy and this new memoir. Here we go. The new memoir that was allegedly from Kim Porter. So here we go. So Radar Online has revealed that basically Kim is speaking from the grave, that a source very close to Kim had a copy of the memoir and has shared it with Radar Online. And some of the experts are shocking. I think for those who've been following the case and have been Kim fans, they're not necessarily surprised. But here's one sample. Basically, she speaks about his jealousy, Diddy's jealousy and abuse. And I believe this was the first time that he got physical with her. She said, Sean yelled, no, she received flowers from someone, and she actually thought they were from him. So he gets upset and he yelled, so who the F are they from? She said, I was bewildered and told him, honestly, I don't know, probably just a fan. He threw the attached card at me. I picked it up and read it. Sean, he slapped me so hard, I hit the ground. Sean yelled, who the F were you with the other night? I looked down at the card and it was lying on the ground next to me, and it read, the night was amazing. We must do it again. I tried to explain. Sean threw the flowers at me. I said, this is not, he said, that's not how this works. You have my child. You don't touch anyone unless I allow it. She wrote, Diddy picked up my coffee mug and slammed it against the wall. Coffee flew everywhere as he yelled, who the F this N think he is? While desperately trying to calm him down, Porter insisted, it was just coffee with the producer. It was nothing. She explained they met up to discuss maybe her starring in another movie that he wanted to produce. Sean exploded even more. He wants to put the move on my effing family. At the top of his lungs, he screamed, my effing family. He then flipped the table over, breaking it. It was a heavy table, but Sean is stronger than he looks. I pleaded with him, Sean, please. He yelled at me, what? I tried my best to calm him down. He probably didn't know. It didn't come up. You're publicly dating someone else. Oh, heck no. What you're not going to do is hit me, attack me, and all these things. First of all, I haven't done anything to you, but so keep your hands to yourself, of course. But you out here embarrassing me. You over with other girls and you still, boy. He screamed at me and it somehow seemed even more intense. So you didn't tell him to back off? Sean, I didn't. And then out of nowhere, he hit me with a chair. I don't remember anything after that until I woke up in a hospital room. My arm was in a cast, hanging from a sling. My face hurt. My eyebrow was in immense pain, as was my lip. As I came to, the first face I saw was of the man that put me there. She then said, According to the document, it said Kim, when she woke up in the hospital, said, "My arm was in a cast hanging from a sling. My face hurt. My eyebrow was in immense pain, as was my lip. I faced the man that was there." Sean asked with concern in his voice, "How are you feeling?" Like he didn't know what he just did. She said, "I responded, 'Stay away from me.'" Y'all see all these coupons. Y'all love me a good coupon. He says, "I understand you're angry." I glared at him as I cut him off. "I'm serious, Sean." He spoke blandly with no energy. And, and tell them what? That you had a car accident? Sean is telling her, "And tell them what? That you had a car accident? They'll pity you, that you hit your head." He was going to make me look crazy. They were going to believe him. He was a kingpin. I told him, "You're a effing bastard." Sean spent the next 6 months helping me heal and working his way back into my life and into my bed. I was so damn stupid. And of course, I wasn't cast for either movie role. From what I understand, the producer passed away of pneumonia. Now, this was the part that really killed me. Literally, that was the part that really got me, is because she allegedly passed of pneumonia. And this wasn't the first person that was a love interest of someone that Diddy was interested in who passed away. The guy Shakur, I can't remember his name. But Shakur, that guy, I think he had also dated Kim. Same thing happened with her. And interestingly, the way how he was super, both with Cassie and with her, his thing was always, for them to cover it up. And it was interesting to me how Cassie never had a career when she got with him, and neither did Kim. That was intentional. That was absolutely intentional to keep them dependent on him. And that's one of the biggest signs of an abuser. Tia said, "This might be disrespectful for me to say, but did he always look like someone to stay the heck away from, especially 20 years ago? Shark mouth. He really looked special before the money." I would agree with that. Who was the producer? His name was in another document. I'm not sure. I think actually they may have blurred it out on this particular article, but no, it wasn't John Sing. That's a great question, because he definitely died of John Singleton passive an acts of an illness. But I'm gonna assume from the way this story is told. No. I'm pretty sure Singleton passed after Kim passed. Yeah, Shakur Stewart is the other guy. They said that he offed himself, is what Abby just said, but she doesn't believe him. Let me see when John Singleton passed. John Singleton passed. Yep, 2019, and Kim, I believe, was 18. So, yeah, I just feel like those are way too many similarities. What do you guys think? I just think that's just way too many. So wait. Tam says, "Wow, from the grave, Kim speaks. Can her minor children be taken from him?" They could. Oh, so the answer is they could. Yes. So as we know, the grand jury is meeting right now, hearing testimony to determine whether or not they're going to indict him. When I say right now, I mean like they've been meeting for like the last 2 weeks. Grand juries meet as long as is necessary to take in evidence. I actually got a call about that and some issues related to that I won't speak on today. But the point being, once he's indicted, it's going to really depend on what for. So, for example, if it's more white collar things like wire fraud and those kind of things, from maybe the way in which he paid money to certain, S workers, and perhaps didn't file it properly on his taxes, that kind of thing. No, I don't see them taking the kids. But if it's anything where he's going to, if it's something violent, if it's something S-natured, then there's definitely a good chance. Now, the girls are older. I think they just turned 16 or 17. So honestly, they could be emancipated. If he set up trust funds properly, they could technically be emancipated, or say they're old enough to say to a judge, "I want to go live with You know, my auntie, what's that baby fat girl? Kim. No, not that Kim. What's, you know, the baby fat girl, whatever her name was. I want to go live with this or that aunt. They can do that, no problem. I don't think he'll serve time yet. He's guilty. I said, the reason why I do think he'll serve time, the reason I think he'll serve time is because the feds are not going. I don't see them bringing charges against someone so famous, so all of those things. The kinds of charges they're investigating, because remember, this is Homeland Security. This ain't just like your local police department. This is Homeland Security. You can't charge nobody with anything related to trafficking without them going up underneath. Or at least doing some prison time, okay? Depending on the facts. Like there was the one guy, Molly Mal, he didn't go up under the jail. He was from Love and Hip Hop. I think he got like 5 to 7 years for trafficking young ladies. So I do think he's going to do some time. The question I really have is, what are the charges going to be? I anticipate it's going to be a combo of white collar and S crimes. And that's because the white collar is just more foolproof. You know, they love to overcharge, and then work things down to try and get either a deal on the table or get down to the ones that they really feel like they can prove the best. Thank you, Shakira Stewart. And we got, okay. And Celebrity Scandalous has said, I have a question about Jennifer Williams. She's engaged, but if they're living together and ended up not getting married, could he sue for palimony? Yeah, it just depends on what state they consider their home. But yes, I believe Mariah Carey did that with the billionaire boyfriend she had, who's a little funny looking. But and ultimately they settled for something else out of court. I'm so glad that Ethan, I'm so glad that you asked that. Do I think that Diddy might be connected to Tupac's pow powing? Here we go. I'm glad that you asked that. Here we go. Because records revealed that Diddy's name is named 77 times by prosecutors in a Tupac Shakur M-word file as a suspect. And it was alleged that he ordered an $11 million hit on the rapper Tupac. Now, this gentleman, Keith D, is currently being charged with Tupac's murder. And this man is just like singing like a canary. So I believe all of this is going to work together. I think the feds are going to work together with California, with all of that. I would not be surprised. But I feel like unless they come up with something new, it's not going to stick, because the question is, well, how long has this file had his name in it like this? Because, you know, we watch cold case type of cases all the time. And if his name was in the file like this for the last 20 years, then it's not going to make a difference. It's just hitting the news story for us today. But if this is some newer investigation and newer information that the current prosecutor, right, that's prosecuting this guy for Tupac's offing has found more recently, then there could definitely be something there. But I just don't know that I think that he did this. I don't know. I feel like this guy just really might be a scapegoat. I just have trouble believing that he's just been here he's just so goofy, doofy, and basic. I have trouble believing he's been here all the time, but I need to do a little bit more research about it to figure out why they're just now putting it together and determining that it's him. I admit I need to know a little bit more of that. Yeah. I mean, this shit said Mariah Carey sued when the question was about palimony. She said Mariah Carey sued that man for wasting her time. An icon. You right about that, girl. It's Purple Rain says allegedly Mariah was messing around with her dancer Brian when she sued the billionaire. Well, that's some tea. And Purple Rain also says Mariah also broke up with her backup dancer recently. Mariah don't look like she really be doing no exercise, so she probably shouldn't be dating no dancer. That's why I don't never date no personal trainers. You're not about to shame me into that gym. I want to date a professional ice cream eater. That's more in line with my lifestyle. All right. Tia rates, Diddy seems jealous and extremely insecure, and there's no end to what evil he may have done. Yeah, that's true. Diddy is guilty of a lot. Yep. Well, all right, guys. I'm supposed to be jetting to my girl Chef Shay from Ready to Love. It is her birthday today, so I'm going to Taco Tuesday to celebrate for her. But please hit that like button on your way out. Thank you so much for the support, guys. And down below in the chat, let me know what topics you want me to cover next. All right. Till next time.